have your attention? My name's Peter Drake. I'm the provost at the New York Academy of Art. It's the first round of applause I've ever had for that, so thank you very much. I'd like to welcome you to our spring lecture series. Tonight we're very happy to have Randy Cohen of Person, Place, and Thing fame, who will be joined tonight by Wendy Olsoff of PPOW Gallery and Brigitte Mulholland of Anton Kern Gallery. A little background on Randy. His first professional work was in writing humor pieces, essays, and stories for newspapers and magazines, including The New Yorker, Harpers, The Atlantic, Young Love Comics. His television work has included writing for Late Night with David Letterman and Michael Moore's TV Nation. For 12 years, you may know him very well from this. He wrote The Ethicist, a weekly column for the New York Times Magazine section, and his most recent book, Be Good, How to Navigate the Ethics of Everything. So please welcome Randy.
This is not the first show we did here. We did one, you were before when you were all like, I don't know, you were in nursery school. It was 8 years ago, right? Yeah. It was, who was it? Jerry's, right. So it was two critics, husband and wife, airing their intimate, secrets. So it's a pretty high standard. They were pretty great. But you will be pretty great. I just want to say a quick word about the format. I think people are especially interesting when they don't speak directly about themselves, but about things they care about. And so Wendy and Brigitte will talk about one person, one place, and one thing that are meaningful to them. We're recording for radio. What else? There'll be a chance for questions at the end. We are, because it's radio, we're a radio show. And if it's a radio show, there should be music. And I'm delighted that this evening the music will be Valerie Turner and Ben Turner, Piedmont Blues.
Well, yes, I'm Valerie Turner. This is Benedict Turner. We're the Piedmont Blues acoustic duo, and we're so happy to be here with you. We play country blues. That's music from the American South that dates back to the early 1900s. We're going to start with a piece by a man named Fulton Allen, also known as Blind Boy Fuller. He was from North Carolina. The piece is called Step It Up and Go. Let me hear your harp. Oh, it's Bones, right?
Yeah.
Got a good man, his name is Bo. I used to love him, but I don't no more. You gotta step it up and go. Yeah, go. Well, you can't stay here elsewhere. You gotta step it up and go. Walking down the street, telling everyone but the chief of police, you gotta step it up and go. Yeah, go. Well, you can't stay here elsewhere, you gotta step it up and go. Shake it high, shake it low, just don't let nobody know. You gotta step it up and go. Yeah, go. Well, you can't stay here, I swear. You gotta step it up and go. Thank
you. You got woos. You don't usually get woos. I mean, not that you don't.
We get woos.
You get woos.
Wendy and I get woos. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Will. You know, people come for this backstage stuff, the adjusting of the microphones, right? So, who is your person?
Oh, our person is Cause.
Yes.
COS, Bill Cosby? Cos?
K-A-W-S.
Brian Donnelly, aka Cause.
But everyone in this room knows who that is, right?
Woo! Yeah.
He didn't get a woo, but you got a woo. Why
We
Cos?
give him a woo.
You do give
we
him a
woo
woo.
him.
You,
Absolutely.
When we
Like two
spoke very
woos.
briefly, you
Yeah.
speak about him with real affection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's an amazing person.
Yeah. I mean, he's a really important and lovely part of the art world, actually, I would say. And he's been very important to the both of us, to artists that we work with, to our galleries, I think to the art world at large, both as an artist and as a collector.
And it's common knowledge. It's his story. He's like probably the most famous artist ever.
Yeah.
But he
easily.
started as a graffiti artist. And he, brings it back, like Martin Wong, who we represent, his estate, collected graffiti artists when the graffiti artists had no market. And he now collects Martin Wong. I mean, and really loans it and supports it and historicizes it and loans it and also buys other graffiti artists. So it's like, and he's a graffiti artist. So it's like what he collects is part of his, I think, part of his art. It's important because it's like really heartfelt. And an artist who does that is pretty rare, I think, from my point of view, at the level he does it. But I love that, like, he started as a graffiti artist, and then he buys Martin Wong, who collected graffiti, and then other graffiti artists.
So you're saying what he collects is important as much his art as the art he makes.
Maybe not as important, but it's.
Well, I wasn't going to quibble, but in general, that it's.
I see it as a
Yeah.
part of. It's a very, like his work is like I think. Vast appeal, obviously. Huge appeal to young people globally, to all segments of society all over the world. And his collection is really not predictable and comes from the heart, like his work. And he collects Carolee Schneemann. He collects, Martin Wong. He collects.
He's bold. He collects Nicole Eisenman. And
Right.
Like,
A lot of-
Brian Calvin, Ellen Birkenblit. Like, he's really...
I mean, we only know who he collects from us,
Yeah.
but and he collects a lot of outsider art. But it comes like he'll buy Anton van Dalen, like, and actually, but his work, to answer your question, it's part. I see it as part of his generosity in his work and in his collecting.
Well, that's the thing, and anytime anyone like says something to me, I'm like, you know what? His work is not cynical, and in an art world where like cynicism kind of reigns, it's not. And I find that like his work is accessible to people that don't know anything about art, and he is probably the only artist that I would say is an absolute gateway drug into the art world. And once people go in, then they're like, oh my God, wow, like who, and it totally evolves. And people like, a lot of my best collectors started with him and want to learn more and want to know and talk about it. And it's like, that's such a wonderful thing that he's doing for the art world and for other artists. Like,
if you would say that to him, would he feel good about it, or would it hurt his feelings a little? Or you're saying, well, you're the beginner. You're like
no,
art for
not
beginners.
the beginner.
Because you don't seem to think of that.
No, I'm not saying beginner, but I'm saying that like there's top collectors who get it, and then there's also people that don't know anything about it, but they come to the art world through him because they look at it, they're like, oh my God, I love this. What is this? And he makes it accessible to people from all over. I find that to be really lovely.
Yeah.
And it is. I'm not saying it's beginner work. It's not beginner work, but it's something that really is truly generous to the art world that he's been able to do that I don't think many other artists can do, actually.
Hey, by the way, how do you know what he collects? I mean,
Well, we
he
know he
doesn't
buys
have
from us.
Yeah,
he
we know
doesn't
he
have a
buys from us.
museum of cause.
I mean, you can look, you can see.
Or does he?
You can look at his
Look at his
Instagram.
Instagram, yeah. I mean, you see like the wall behind like the couch, and you can see, and sometimes it changes. You're like, oh, okay, like
So no, as
he
I
does
know-
rehangs, like.
Yeah, and to say like if we said this to him, like he's also like he's a pretty humble person. Like he's a
Yeah.
really like straightforward, humble person. Like he would not be
He's very sweet,
like shy
and funny, and
yeah.
like very
and he's
like,
yeah. And when you go to his studio, like he's there with a paintbrush. It's not like 20,000 people painting his paintings. Like it's like really making work. It's like I think there's a lot. I think we picked him as a person that we really like and admire and respect, but someone who's misunderstood a lot. And I know
100%, yeah.
he's like really believes in figurative art, and we're here, so it makes sense to talk about him also.
And,
So he started out doing graffiti, and then did he not paint for Disney, do cartooning for Disney for a while?
Apparently, yes. Yeah, he did that
Is
for
that
a
myth?
while.
Is that true?
I
think it's
so.
true. I mean,
I don't
it is
care
like
if it's
we.
I mean, yeah, he did,
Yeah.
and then he went off to Japan, I think, because he didn't really know what to do, but he was making the small dolls, the figurines in Asia. And I think he models himself somewhat after Murakami, I mean, to a degree, another artist who has like global fame.
Yeah.
But Brian's work is like very different. Murakami collects also. So,
Yeah, Murakami could be like the other one that's like people like that don't know anything about art like see it and they're like, oh wow, this is really like I love this, you know. But Brian's just something that I feel like people he understands something about culture and pop culture and color too. Like his color is I think one of the strongest things about the work, and it's really really interesting to people in a way that they don't necessarily realize at first, but they're like, oh wow, I'm really drawn to this.
Sure. I mean, people enjoy Beethoven who could not tell you anything about music, and something about it just speaks to them, and then they're hooked, and that's it. Is that a reasonable parallel? No, you don't like the Beethoven parallel. It's
No, I
'cause
don't
I'm
know.
old, right?
No. I'm just like I don't.
It's a geezer parallel. I apologize.
No,
I
I'm
like
like
artists.
I don't know enough about Beethoven to like.
Nah, neither what do I.
I'm like.
But no, I
yeah.
was just because at first when you were describing him as the gateway to art, I thought, well, you're just saying it's simple stuff for beginners, but you're not at all.
no,
And
no.
I was thinking of parallels in
appeal.
music.
It
where-
appeals to a lot of young people who would have no entryway to walk into either of our galleries and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it means. And so when he started off making figurines in Japan, that was accessible because Japanese anime is a thing everyone gets and young people get, and you know, it's universal and it's universal over the world. But he found an audience in Japan first with these figurines. In fact, I went to his studio in the 90s, and he was this super nice guy in a loft in Williamsburg, and he showed me the figurines. I was like, this is awesome, but it's not for my gallery. However, he went on to, something about timing in the art world, too. And like, just be there at the right time when there was an explosion of interest in, I guess it's called anime, right? Stuff my son would have been interested in, who loves Brian's work. It created a big demand, and then he started getting more successful. I mean, I don't know the whole trajectory of his career, but it's just people in the art world love to hate famous people who do well.
Yeah, and also famous people who do well without like being anointed by some pseudo-intellectual like wand that's bestowed upon you. Like, oh wow, the art world has picked you. He didn't go that way, and he really and he's had such wild success that I think that a lot of it is just bitterness on the part of people that are like, oh, like, you know, they wish that they had kind of like agreed to it before it was actually so successful.
Well, I love the bitterness and the jealousy in any profession that's not mine. It's always fascinating, and the blood is not mine, or the people like this. So that's pretty great. So
You don't have any bitterness or jealousy at all.
Oh, I do, but only in my own field.
Right.
I'm too
Right,
unsophisticated to have it in your
so
field.
sad.
No, but that's the thing. I mean, and that's the thing, like the sophistication, like the art world is not like there's sophistication, but it's like this mythology of like, oh no, like I can't understand art and this and that. It's like, of course you can. Look at something and tell me how you feel about it. You like it? Great. You don't like it? What don't you like about it? Let's talk about it. It's really actually that simple. Art's for everyone.
Is it?
Yes,
Or-
100%.
Well, those are not necessarily the same things, because I would say for reading fiction, well, anyone, the library's for anyone, and anyone can pick up a Jane Austen, and that's fine. But there are better readers and worse readers.
Oh, sure,
And that you
yeah.
grow in sophistication, and you grow in knowledge, and then you get to have more fun.
But then sometimes you really like something, and later on you really don't like something.
Yes,
too.
you'll change. Your
And there are
relationship
many,
to a
many
work will
writers
change.
and artists and musicians who were ignored or famous in their time, then disappear and come back. So art's
Yes.
not static, like in any field at all. And
For me too, it's like, like for me it was like the thing that got me into the art world was like Monet, say. And I sometimes feel like it's such a like trite and cliche thing to say, is like this young like student in history class, but it's like, no, if you can't find me in a museum, I am at the Monet painting. I'm still
yeah.
staring at that.
And I love
God,
the
like 20 years,
pre-Raphaelites, and I go
yeah.
in the Tate now, I'm like, oh, get me out of here. So
Funny, that's really funny.
it's like, I don't want to see Rossetti anymore, please.
Yeah.
So things change or
Yeah.
stay the same.
Or don't,
Or don't.
and it's like sometimes it is like the thing, the thing that got you in, it's like, that's really special.
Do you think part of his appeal, or part of the reason he's a way-in for younger people is his references are to contemporary culture rather than to Greek mythology, say?
I don't know that that's necessarily true either. I mean, I don't
No?
think Greek
No.
mythology is the first thing you look at, but there's a huge amount of pathos in the work. And he started off like doing graffiti on fashion magazines, on bus shelters. So it was essentially a critique and a sort of exposing the toxicity
Yeah.
of that, the bus shelter with, I don't
Right.
even remember the designer's ads on it. So I just think he gets an unsympathetic view.
But like, isn't the Greek mythology like the cultural pathos of our time? Like to me, it's like kind of, he's doing the same thing. He's doing it like,
Oh,
he's
I'm
doing
not
it
knocking it.
No,
I'm just saying
I'm
it's-
just like, it's like kind
um,
of like, I see it as kind of like equivalent, but in a real like he's really responding to deep stuff.
And he's a graffiti, essentially
yeah.
there's a rootedness in graffiti artists and outsider
Yeah.
art. I mean, and very much his gut.
It's
like how he
yeah.
collects too. Like it's very much intuitive.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a super
It's so funny.
grad school
Yeah.
kind of.
Like,
but that's going with your gut's a really important thing in the world, I think, and people are sometimes afraid of that.
Yeah, I was talking to an artist who was like, graffiti is like such a contemporary like pathos and like maybe the most like interesting medium of our time right now. That there's more that people can do in graffiti than they can kind of do in oil painting, because graffiti is like the last bastion of a kind of avant-garde.
Many artists have stolen a lot of techniques from graffiti artists. I mean, you see it in tons of contemporary painting.
Totally,
And
yeah,
a lot of the
yeah.
times it's not recognized, and it's part of also people looking down at graffiti art as not real art.
I mean, look at, how derided Basquiat and Keith Haring were for so long. And now, that's, it takes maybe some time, and now they're like the pinnacle of a kind
Well,
of
it's the market also.
thing. The market, yeah. I mean, but then it's like, it goes to our sort of quintessential questions as dealers, like what does the market actually mean?
And then he's probably vilified a lot because
Yeah.
of the sensationalism of the market. Like I used to do talks maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and everybody would be like, how can you, like some random person would stand up and be like, how can you justify Jeff Koons? Like, no one does that anymore. Just move over, Jeff. There's someone else to hate right now.
Right, yeah.
So are they making, are these critics making a moral argument rather than an aesthetic argument, that they find this offensive?
It's not all critics, and there's really
Well,
another
those
good
who
curator.
dislike this work, who reject this work,
I
are they
mean,
rejecting it
it's
on
like a
moral?
very, very predictable. It's like a very vehement and very predictable and not very nuanced, actually.
Yeah, and it is.
It's very knee-jerk.
It's knee-jerk, and it is this like, it's sort of these faux intellectuals, because some of this, many of the smartest people that we know, like, totally agree with this. That it is like this.
Well, I define the smartest people I know as people who disagree with me. Who agree with
But
me.
it is,
yeah.
I do.
I mean,
think, yeah.
but that goes for, people dislike figurative art in general until really
Yeah.
recently, and they're going to dislike it again. So you're going to find this, like, it's not,
And then people that were like, oh my God, abstraction's dead, blah, blah, blah. And now suddenly, oh my God, abstraction, this is a thing, screw figurative work. And there's this thing of like,
It's like
these
the art
stupid
world.
trends and,
competitiveness lists. The
Yeah.
art world is riddled with sort of like this, this like silent agreement of what's good or not, infiltrated by people controlling things behind the scenes somewhat.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you
And
know,
it's
in a world
and like,
where...
but who are those people anyway?
Wait, what do you mean?
You know?
What are the two? You don't mean like the George Soros Foundation? This isn't some QAnon argument. Do you
No,
mean,
it's
do
just
you
the
mean
market. Let's just call it the market.
established
It's, the
critics?
it's
are you talking about?
capitalism. That's all it is.
It is.
But he's a triumph in the market.
And people
But
hate
that's
that.
triggering a response.
Yeah,
In other
yeah.
words, it's,
Oh,
it's
man, you
markets
can't win.
controlling that response. So if he was working right now in a studio here, no one would hate him. Maybe people might really love it.
So it's just jealousy.
And then maybe in 20 years, if he's
It's
gone
jeal-
unrecognized, suddenly it'll be like, oh my God, we
This
missed
artist
the
is-
boat. This art, like, God, I can't believe we ignored this person for 20 years. You know, it's just, it's so capricious, like constantly just shifting its mind. The
And it's
market shifts
faster
its
than
mind.
ever. It's really
yeah,
fast
that
now.
too. I mean, the cycle, the boom bust. It's really like, and the other thing that I really admire about him is how like he really thinks in the long term, and in the way he collects and the way he makes work, and just like the kind of person he is. Like he's really just doing it because he loves it. He's doing it for like love of art, of people, of collecting, of museums, of paint, like all of that. It's really like he is like, and how anyone can deride something that is actually extremely genuine is beyond me personally.
Well, I like to end every segment on that note of despair with the human heart, and just you're sickened by your fellow human beings. So let's take a moment, and we'll be right back.
Well, we're going to continue with a song from the Mississippi Delta by a man named Robert Johnson. It's called "I Believe I'll Dust My Broom." May I hear your harp? Perfect. I'll get up in the morning. I believe I'll dust my broom. I'm gonna wake up in the morning. Yes, I believe I'll dust my broom. You know that gal you've been loving? Honey, you and her can have my room. Go write me a letter. Telephone every town I know. I'm gonna write me a letter. If he ain't in West Helena, must be in East Monroe, I know. I believe I'll go back home. I'm gonna wake up in the morning. Yes, I believe I'll go back home. You know that gal you've been loving? Honey, you and her can have my room.
Piedmont Blues. So where is your place?
Our place is like our respective art fair closets, specifically at Art Basel Miami Beach.
in Miami Beach. Well, I know what an art fair is, but I don't know what an art fair closet is.
Have you been to an art fair?
No. My knowledge is theoretical. It's derived in an orbiting space platform where I learn about your people and their ways.
So there's like
They're very strange.
these
to me.
really weird, mysterious creatures all
So
clad in black. Like, so there's the booth, which is where all the kind of art is up for collectors and public to see. And then there's like the closet, which is this like secret little part of the booth where you can store kind of like, like it's a little peek behind the scenes. I mean, when we discussed this, I was like, oh, this is where I go to eat prosciutto and cry. And you were like, oh, that's like the sexy spot. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and every gallery has like when you're setting up the art fair, you're like, so what are we bringing for the closet?
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
so weird. And then like, we're gonna have a big closet. Now let's just have a small closet.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, so you like, it's definitely something all galleries, or let's have no closet.
Oh, God. And then you're like, oh, my God, but where are we going to put our stuff?
And the closets cost money. It's like
They
not
do,
a little
yeah.
thing. It's
The
like,
door costs money.
The door costs a
And then
lot
the
of money.
key to the door costs money. You have to put down a deposit.
Who-
And then if you lose
So
the key, you
sometimes
lose your deposit.
We used to just do curtains. Like we could like screw the closet. We're just bringing a shower curtain that me and Penny would hang ourselves inevitably.
Who's getting this money?
Oh, the art fair.
art fair.
Who runs it?
So
It's a
someone's
business.
organized the art fair.
Everything is sold, like the walls, the lights, the carpet, the closet, the doors.
The electrical outlet.
You pay extra
The
for
outlets.
electricity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't pay for internet anymore, but you used to have to. I remember that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, well, this sounds like a brutal, tyrannical regime. Why do you?
That's
knuckle
why I
up?
go in the closet to cry.
Do you?
There's a lot of crying in the closet.
Yeah,
Why?
I think it's like, and I think we chose it because we're like, oh, this is a metaphor for how brutal art fairs actually are.
How our business is. It's like there's a lot of reasons why.
It's very undignified. You know, you go like, and I mean, it's the same way for like, same way at the gallery too, but it's like you plan, and then something goes wrong.
Yes.
Constantly something goes wrong, or like, you know, the install's not going as quick as you really want it to. I mean,
Something gets damaged.
something gets lost.
Something gets lost. Something doesn't arrive that you
Yeah.
hope would arrive.
Yeah.
Or someone said they'd buy something, so you haven't offered it to anyone else, and then they decide they don't want it on a whim when you just lost and you just paid for the closet.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're yes.
You know, like, I mean, some collectors really pissed off at you because they wanted this thing, they can't have it. You know, I mean, it's like you've been standing on your feet for 5 hours, your hips hurt, you haven't eaten anything all day.
Yeah. You usually don't eat
Like,
very much at all, and then
yeah.
I'm very tyrannical about the closet because people in our gallery like to stay very hydrated. I personally don't. So like they have tons of beverages in the closet, and I'm like, we need a place to hide the beverages. Your water station needs
that
to
is,
be. Like,
yeah,
it's like-
yeah.
So the closet is.
It's also a food place.
The hidden part of your brain where all the troubles of work, that's where they're all
Potentially,
stored away.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it's also where you want to create this, like, oh, do you want to see what's in like only special people can go and see what's in the closet. You know, so then like once you learn about the closet, then
Do
collectors
you
like,
have anything else
what,
by
like,
so and so?
can I see what's in the closet? You know, and
Is it
it's like this
true?
little treasure chest.
And
that you've
collectors
got.
will say, "What do you have in your closet?"
Yep.
Oh, I just thought that was
Yeah.
a metaphor for something more,
It sounds
intimate
like
and
it.
flattering.
Oh.
It sounds like it. But sometimes in my day, anyway, when I was younger, people would be like, another person would say, Can you just show me what's in your closet? I'd be like, yeah, let's go to the closet.
And you would like make out with them?
That I'm not saying.
So
I mean, there are
the
better
good-
places than the closet for
Not
that.
like when you're
In a
installing.
pinch, yeah, true.
I am sure it still happens, Brigitte. You need to get something going on.
Well, then
Is
it's
it-
like,
so is all
I
the-
just don't do it in the closet. It's
Like
like,
a little,
you have the
break
art
from like having to work.
You
Like,
have your art fair affairs if that's like what you're doing, you know.
starts in the closet, then it goes to the beach, then to the bedroom.
So is all the good stuff in the closet? Am I a sucker for just looking at the stuff that's not in the closet?
It's all great stuff,
it's
and
all
that's
good.
the
It's
gist.
all great
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is
It
just like
is.
this.
Why would
it
we
is.
have not great stuff?
That's true.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And what the
I mean-
the reason you're in Miami at this art fair is it like taking the show on the road? You're hoping to put
trade
your
show.
work in
Yeah,
front of
it's
it's
a
like a
trade
trade
show.
show.
Yeah.
It's basically a trade show.
But a gallery seems, has a sort of august, cloistered feel. I'm slightly intimidated when I walk in because, you'll look at me and like I'm an ignorant person, except for Claus. He always makes you feel welcome.
Go up to Scarstat and see how
Is it like going to the provinces?
What?
Well, no, but it's just like, it's so funny because people are like, oh my God, you get to travel so much. And people are like, what should I see at the art fair? And I'm like, I see what's on my booth and the booth across from me and what's between me and the bathroom and me and the coffee, and that's it. And maybe if I'm lucky and like we've sold enough where I can like take 2 hours on a Sunday to walk around, I can see what's going on.
Honestly, if you walked around an art fair, I don't know what you would learn from it, honestly. Like, just hearing your perspective and how many, like...
This seems like such a contrast. You admire Claus so much because he's a way in for people, but aren't art fairs a way in for people in Miami? They can't be in New York.
It's like
it's
not,
tough. It's really...
The part of his work that was entry level was more the figurines and things that were sold online and sold in stores in Japan. It wasn't like his paintings so much, but...
Walking into an art fair, it's like walking into a trade show, and there's just tons of stuff, and there's no guidance.
It'd be like me walking into a car show. Like, what am I going to learn here?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
that looks good. That looks good. I don't know.
And I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm guilty of like, there's a difference between like the VIP day and the public day, because it is like because some people that don't know what an art fair is think, oh, it's an art show, and they walk in and they don't understand that like. Dealers have paid sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to be there. And the purpose of these things is to sell things and to meet with curators and meet with collectors. And then there's this sort of public aspect of it, which is nice, but then on our end, it becomes frustrating because I have people like sometimes just saying terrible things about the work.
Well, but that's
or being,
fair.
and that's where it can become kind of disheartening. But then if you walk into a gallery and you have genuine questions, someone's going to talk to you about it.
I think at the art fair, if someone has general questions, but the art fairs have become so like sensationalized, and so the public days, and people come with their kids, and the kids are running around, and they come with, in the selfie machine, it's like everyone's taking pictures of themselves with the artwork. And then someone once asked me, just to bring up Carolee again, we had a beautiful historical booth of her work. They asked me if I was Carolee Schneemann. I mean, I was
that's
like,
the worst one. Are you the artist?
Yeah, but in this case, it's incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a famous performance artist, who I don't have to tell you all what she did, but I would not do that. but it's also, we have tons of books, we have tons of information, we have QR codes, and it's like, people think of art, and I've been to, like, this is true with many educated people who are doctors and lawyers and corporate merger hedge fund kings, and we're at a dinner party, and it's not through the art world, and this is not recent, because now they'd ask me to explain something else now, but they always want me in the middle of dinner to explain abstract painting to them, and why a Bryce Martin or Ellsworth Kelly is interesting. And I'm like, you need to read a lot of books. You need to spend time going to museums. This is not a Hollywood movie for you to digest in 2 minutes. And you can't close your eyes and pretend you know Beethoven. I mean, you can't do it. You have to work. So at the art fair, we're sitting there exhausted, planning this for months on end. A lot of physical work, a lot of very important efforts to pay the bills to do this fair.
Yeah.
And then you're there, and someone walks over and like, can you just tell me about this artist? And the artist is, David Wojnarowicz. I'm like, I cannot tell you. There's like 10 books here. There's so much online about him. There's like,
and they're doing it on a lark.
And then when you say no, they say, "Oh, I hate art dealers." I'm like,
it's like,
but isn't this the opposite of what you're saying about Claus?
No,
no, and that's the thing, because
so
it's like,
I've
had plenty of people say to me like, "Oh my God, you're doing Art Basel." I didn't know there was art at Art Basel.
And they don't come to the convention center.
And they're like, "Oh my God, there's art during Basel, Miami." I'm like, that's how it all started, and it kind of gets, and when it is, it's parties, and it's like, oh my God, Beyonce was there, and she threw a party here. I was like, did Beyonce come to the fair? Did she buy anything? Like,
did she bring her kids? Did she bring her dog? Did she ask a lot of annoying questions?
She definitely would not do that.
She would not do that. But it's like, but it is. It's like there's, and it's sort of this fundamental misunderstanding of like, we've put in so much. We are so tired. We don't get to go out in Miami. And it is like there's a bottom line that's going into it where it's like,
You have like a very
Yeah.
short amount of time to do a lot of work for a lot of artists. And those artists have expectations that you need to, that's the reason we're there. Yes, I love if you came by. We're there to promote our programs and to introduce
Yep.
our artists.
To who?
to collectors, to
Curators.
curators, to music,
So you
collectors
don't want
and
the
curators.
riffraff like me, ignorant people
I'd
asking
rather you
stupid
go
questions.
to the Brooklyn Museum and see
Right.
my artist
Right.
shows there.
So why have art go to the art fair at all? Why not arrange a kind of invitation-only thing where you can see a more sophisticated
Right.
group of people?
I mean, we
is
do.
that.
There's
It's
that.
it's
That's the
much of
VIP
that.
day. Yeah,
It's the
yeah,
first
yeah.
3 days.
Yeah. But then
Wow.
it is like it's
And then the
starting
doors
to-
open
yeah.
and,
Well, just go for the first 3 days.
but it's not,
and then leave.
well,
Don't
not
even
everybody
do that.
can do that.
But it's also, I've started to notice sometimes on the VIP day, someone asks me if I'm the artist. I'm like, or like people come up to me like, where's the collector's lounge? It's just such a like,
Collector's Lounge?
oh
Is
oh
there a
gosh, I
collector's
just oh no, another can of worms. Yeah, there's a collector's
There's
lounge.
another place for
If you
it.
have the VIP card, then you can get in there.
This all sounds loathsome, or at least you seem to loathe it. It seems like only all the bad stuff about the art world and none of the wonderful
Yeah, but the wonderful thing is then like, you know, you're in Miami and your colleagues from London and from Glasgow are
And you see
there.
people from all
and
over the world who
see
you really
people-
like
yeah.
and are
Maybe
really
you guys could just,
supportive.
you and your colleagues, you could rent a beach house together.
Well, they
Yeah,
do
but you need,
sometimes.
you know, that happens too, but you also have to make money. You can't just go on a vacation and not
Without
be
making
working. Yeah.
But you're really there to try to make relationships with other dealers. You know, that's a really great opportunity. If like I had an artist who wants to show at a gallery in Hong Kong, I'll just say, you know, I can maybe try to form a relationship with someone, or talk to a curator, sell art to a museum, to place art in collections with people who are there to not flip the work. You know, that's why you need these days, because flipping is another thing that we really have to be careful about, which means someone comes and buys a work as an investment, and then, you know, a year later puts it at auction. It's extremely bad for the artist's career. And if it goes really well or it goes really badly.
Wait, why is it bad for the artist's career?
Because they don't see that money, and then suddenly everyone who is an opportunist is going to say, oh, I can make money on this. And the thing about the art world is that when an artist's work goes to auction, it's not the same as music. There's no royalties. There's no...
Oh, am I right?
Yeah.
In some countries, France, they have such a
Yeah,
law
and it's-
that,
but it's
that
also
when you
like-
resell the work,
yeah.
the artist
At an
receives a
auction.
percentage.
Very
of
Yeah, but it's a
small.
pittance. It's like 5%. It's like
And I
so
don't even know what
pathetic.
it is
You know,
anymore.
it is, and it's like only if you're a European artist and the work is sold at an auction in Europe.
It's terrible.
It's
Did Biden
terrible.
mention any of this in the State of the Union last night? This sounds
I
like
mean-
a legal problem. That
I
when
mean,
your work is
yeah.
resold, you, the artist, should receive
yeah.
a significant portion of that.
Absolutely, and there's no regulation of it. It's really, you know, the art world is basically a gentleman's agreement.
But then
Or
on the
a
other
gentlewoman's
hand,
agreement.
on the other hand, the work can also be very damaging at auction because it could not sell well.
Right.
And then people come and go, oh, I just was really interested in this piece, but I looked up the auction records on Artsy, and this piece did really badly. So, and this piece, and why should I pay the price you're asking?
Yeah,
And then you have to go into a
exactly.
long song and dance explaining why.
And it's like the market is not an indicator of value, actually. It's really like,
Well, you know, in my apartment, we keep the red flag flying, so of course the market isn't an indicator of value. But and yet the art world, the art fair especially sounds like, well, it's a marketplace.
It's a big contradiction.
the art world is a big,
And
weird,
a lot of
contradictory
artists have
thing.
issues with it. I show a lot of political artists, and it's a very hard pill to swallow. But
And then some artists just hate having their work at art fairs. And I tell artists, I'm like, go to one and then never go again. Don't ever, because then, you know, you see how much art is up on the walls and how it's just, price this and
then
that.
they're like, I
and-
saw this piece at Anton Kern Gallery, and it's this much money. And how
Yeah.
come my piece is this much money? And it's like,
and then you go into another, and then
so
it's
like as a dealer,
Yeah.
like you're really negotiating and handling a lot of balls at the same time. So if someone comes to you and says, "Where's the bathroom?" It's like,
look on your map.
All right.
Oh God! And then if people
Well,
even
again,
yeah.
you dragged us to this note of complete contempt for the human race. And, so let's take a moment.
if you don't have that, you should not be an art dealer.
Let's take a moment. We'll be right back.
And they're so sweet.
Sure, yeah. Bring us the...
Well, we're going to share a 20th century ballad with you. It's called Careless Love.
Love, oh love, careless love. Love, oh love, careless love. Love, oh love, that mean no love. Can't you see what careless love has done?
Never drive a stranger from your door. Never drive a stranger from your door. Never drive a stranger from your door. He may be the best friend you'll ever know. Once I was blind, but now I see. Once I was blind, but now I see. Once I was blind, but now I see that old love has made a fool of me. Love, oh love, careless love. Love, oh love, careless love. Love, oh love, that mean no love. Can't you see what careless love has done? Well, I'm down in this valley on my knees. I'm down in this valley on my knees. I am down in this valley on my knees. And no true love do I see. Oh, what a fool I have been. Oh, what a fool I have been. Oh, what a fool I have been. And I'd be one all over again. Love, oh love, careless love. Love, oh love, careless love. You made me weep.
That mean
You made me moan.
love, can't you
You
see
made me
what
leave
careless
my
love
happy
has done?
home.
Love,
You made
oh
me
love,
weep.
that mean
You made
no
me
love,
moan.
can't you
You
see
made me
what
leave my happy home.
love,
You made me
oh
weep.
love, that mean
You made me moan.
can't you see
You made me
what
leave
careless
my
love has
happy
done?
home.
Thank you. So, what's your thing?
Say it at the same time.
Instagram.
So Instagram gets a big laugh. You got to move. Instagram gets a knowing laugh, a sophisticated laugh. So why Instagram?
Oh, I guess because it ties into the art world and the way that it evolves and changes, and I mean, even goes back to art fairs.
And it's something that Brigitte and I both have accounts.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we.
Well, and I have a
know it.
series
Like,
too.
unlike
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Well, and I have a series on my Instagram called Ask a Dealer where I do
yeah.
post about like the demoralizing questions I get asked like at art
very
fairs,
funny.
basically.
Does anyone ask you where the bathroom is?
Oh, constantly. A woman literally one time stopped me and asked me how to get downstairs, and we were standing next to a stairwell.
No, I mean on your Instagram account. On your Instagram account.
Well, it's everyone's favorite series on my Instagram account personally. Every time I go to an art fair, they're like, "Yes, let's see what's next," you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, you know,
You got to keep yourself amused those last few
I
days.
do.
I don't go those days anymore.
I stopped going.
Your man Cause has 4 million Instagram followers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
it's
he
very
understands-
influential.
Oh,
so that's
yeah,
a very
yeah.
central thing in his work.
Yeah, I mean, if he posts an artist on Instagram, that can like totally like jumpstart their
Life-changing.
career. Yeah, life changing, absolutely.
Possibly.
When an artist comes to either of your galleries, do you ask them how many Instagram followers?
No.
Never, absolutely never.
Your publishers do.
Yeah, I know.
Really?
It's,
No, it's
yeah.
the road.
Oh, yeah,
It's-
yeah,
It's
Like musicians have that question too. A lot
Yeah,
of the
it's
time.
a marketplace. I don't think
It
it's
is.
a
It
foolish
is in a
question.
weird way. Like it's sort of like a measure of status not to have an account, and it's a measure of
Right.
status to have an account. But you have to have an account that has a certain number of followers on
Well,
it.
but then it also can be the way. I mean, I've met a lot of collectors on Instagram personally.
It's like a marketplace now
Yeah,
too.
I can. You know, sometimes if I post something, someone will be like, "Oh my God, is that available?"
Yeah, you can like actually post something knowingly and know somebody's going to reply and buy it.
Yeah, 100%. You gave away the trick.
Don't tell anyone.
Well, I said there was a piece in the Times that said was noting a generational split, and it said older artists people who enjoy art. By which I guess they meant people. By older they mean people my age. They approach new art very differently. In that old people are interested in paintings that were painted before 1850, and young people are interested in what the Times called Instagram artists. So collectors under 45, their first exposure to work may be on.
I mean, there are
Instagram.
plenty of older people who have Instagram accounts.
Yeah,
Including myself. I
and
mean,
who
a lot
buy
of people
weird stuff too. I mean,
who are real collectors.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
people, there's a certain mentality. I mean, it's an addictive. Everyone knows this. It's quite boring to talk about, but I mean, I think in some cases it has value. In some cases, it's and then sometimes you're just scrolling. And everyone knows about it. It's just, but it is a marketing tool, and it does.
it helps.
But it, what's the word I'm looking for? It helps.
It's both a
figurative
blessing and a
artists.
curse.
It helps
Yeah.
figurative painting, which
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone here
Yeah.
realizes. So
Wait, I don't realize it. Why does it help
because
figurative painting more
if
than
you
other
have a
painting?
conceptual practice, or a practice doesn't translate to that little tiny screen in certain colors, it's just like boring to look at. And figurative art, like if you post like that painting right there, it's a perfect size. It's post it, and then it just looks better. It just it's a visual. Like the reason Instagram is so liked by the art world is because it's visual. It's
Yeah.
instant, and dealers look for artists on it too.
Oh, totally. But then at the same time, it's like you can make something look really good on Instagram, and in real life, you're like, this is
Especially
one of the
figurative
worst paintings I've
painting.
ever seen, actually.
Really?
And that used
Yeah.
to be with slides also in the old days. Like figurative
Right.
art like looks really good in reproduction, but when you go really look at the painting and the way the paint's handled, it's often flat. So
Yeah, and it's true, like for abstract stuff, sometimes I'm like, oh God, that's terrible. But then in real life, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much nuance to this that just is totally flattened in the feed. You know,
and,
it's,
but and if you have some people sometimes some people are really funny and some people are really smart. So, but in general, like all of humanity is rather boring overall.
But so you might discover an artist on Instagram.
It's possible.
So everyone
It's
here should
possible,
run
yeah,
out
yeah.
and immediately spiff up their Instagram.
They
Does,
have done
does
that.
everyone in this room have an Instagram account?
I'm sure, yeah.
Hands?
Yeah.
Well,
of course.
It's only about half, or only about half.
No,
bothered to
they're
put their
lying.
hands in. Oh, the others are- so
Or
half
they've
the
got a secret one, you know? Like, no.
You can be a
just
stalker.
liars.
Yeah.
But there was a time when you could publish your own book online, and that was looked down on. And now, not so much. There are people who they might their first exposure will be work that they showed, writing they showed online, and then
Like on
then
Audible,
it takes off. Is that
publishing
true
on
for you
Audible or
guys too?
something.
Yeah.
Possible to.
Yeah, I think it's just a thing that, it's like with any new sort of technology or social media or anything like that, you have to you can utilize it, but you can't kind of believe in it as this savior or indicator of taste or value or anything like
It's
that.
very fleeting.
It's very fleeting, it's very trendy, and it's
It's like a candy.
and the algorithm might benefit you in one way, and then suddenly you're getting too popular. You're not, suddenly you're like, wait, why have all my likes dropped? And it's
And then you can get hacked, and then you
Yeah.
spend years a gallery or a person, and then all of a sudden you've been hacked, and someone's asking you for $500 to give you your Instagram back, and that happens a lot.
Right,
That
or
happened to us too.
I got hacked, and then a lot of people started texting me. They're like, were you really posting about Ray-Bans? And I was like, oh, God, no. So then I set up two-factor authentication,
Yes. It was painful in the gallery because it's definitely announcing shows and announcing openings and announcing art fairs. It's important because we don't send postcards anymore. You used to send postcards and print them every month, and everyone put them on their fridge and remember to go. No one does that now. And you just we're just going to post this on Instagram. And I'm sure every single gallery, they have digital people, and every meeting is like, when are we posting this? And it's a very every gallery has an Instagram account just to get information out. Or if an artist is reviewed in an art forum, or if an artist gets an award, or if an artist gets in a biennial, or whatever, if an artist has a birthday.
Yeah.
Everything is an
God, I hate those now.
Sometimes that happens. And
Yeah.
you post everything as it's a form of advertising.
Because you also it's a way for people to sign up for your newsletter without you necessarily you have your mailing list, but then people find you that you would never have found. It is a way of
it's
getting people to you and starting engaging in a way that is almost sort of haphazard, but can be extremely beneficial.
And people communicate on it too. So sometimes I'm DMing with people,
Yeah.
and then you're texting with people, and then you're emailing with people, and then you're WhatsApping with people, and it's unbelievably hard for me
It's
to
way too
remember
much.
what format. And people do have normal conversations about stuff on Instagram.
Yep.
And sometimes people what's it called?
Sliding into your
snuggling.
sliding into your DMs. They're like, you
Sliding.
want to meet me in the closet?
Yeah, be right there. Or you want me to come to your studio.
That one,
I like to do
yeah.
a studio visit. Or do you have anything available directly to the artist and bypass the gallery?
I hate that.
Artists don't respect that, but it's sometimes they're like, oh, this person DM'd me. I'm like, ignore it. If they respected you, they'd email at least or call us.
Well, if you're representing an artist and they're on Instagram, customers can go directly to them.
Yes, but it's
Yeah.
a bad form.
It's bad form, and it's also and then artists can sort of feel obligated to have these relationships with collectors where in the past it was no, you just go to the studio and you paint, and then maybe once every however many shows you have, okay, yeah, no, you got to sit and you got to be nice to the collector. Now they feel collectors feel they have this direct access and this sort of entitlement to have relationships with artists that has never really been the way.
Artists have never been as accessible, but a lot of artists ignore the DMs too, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Claus gets a lot of DMs, he doesn't answer.
Well, there is a certain amount of wanting it both ways, that having the Instagram account establishes a personal connection to the collector. On the other hand, you don't want them to really have a personal connection to the collector.
It would be
Well, it becomes tough.
it's distracting.
Yeah. Well, and it is. It's I have, to me, a lot of followers, and it can, as you post things, it is this almost I mean, I hate using the word celebrity, but like, and there's such a direct access that people start to think like they know you, or that like they can kind of engage with you and this and that. And sometimes it's super nice, but sometimes it really can just cross a line where you start to feel uncomfortable
You know,
about
the
it.
weirdest thing I've realized is that sometimes I'll introduce one person to another. I said, oh, do you know each other? Go, oh yeah, we're Instagram friends. I'm like, but
Yep.
you guess you don't really know each other.
Yeah. Or people come up to me at art fairs like, I follow you on Instagram. And I'm like,
Well, art
thank you.
fairs.
Like it's, you know.
Art fairs, exactly.
They're just zoos. It's just do you?
Yes,
You were
you
saying
got it.
some galleries will have someone who's handling social media for
Of
them.
course, yeah.
And do you guys do that? You seem to have mixed feelings about Instagram.
My Instagram is really important. I mean, we have it in our minutes and what we're posting every week.
Yeah, yeah.
do you
and
have an
there's-
employee at the gallery who's just
One
does your
person does
Instagram?
that in concert with other people.
Yeah, I have one of our people does it, but then I kind of monitor it.
But it's
and
not
we
like
talk about it. Yeah.
Also on Instagram, like we do videos. Like we spend money, hire a videographer, we edit the video, and before a show, sometimes we'll post a whole video. And then bigger galleries who have more money, you know, do it much more professionally and have music behind it and text
like
and
graphics and the
graphics
whole,
and,
like,
you know, it's a very good way to telegraph information to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And people that follow you because the algorithm keeps going to those people.
Oh,
so
totally.
it's a very good form of advertising, but it's very
It
It's
can,
just-
yeah. It can get out of like but then like you have an artist who like posts a shot in the studio and suddenly you get 20 inquiries like, can I have that painting? And you're like,
but it's like also depressing because sometimes you'll post something you think is really great, and like 20 people like it. It's like, well, that was done.
Right,
Which is no
right.
reflection
But
of anything
yeah.
except that
So
it didn't
if an
look
artist posts a painting who's doing
good. New
that?
York
Who's
pipes.
doing that? And several people want it. What do you do?
well, it's always the artists that like have a waiting list and like you don't want, you know, you're waiting for the next
So you
painting
can't have
and then
an
they
auction.
No.
That's not permitted.
That
That's
is not
unethical.
permitted, correct? Yeah.
Although I don't quite see why.
You could say how much you're willing to pay. There's no
Right.
law against that.
Right.
Do you?
No, because it's unethical.
But do you think it's wrong? You think it's
Yes.
wrong?
Yeah,
to do
it's
that.
like-
But
Yeah.
why is it wrong?
Because there's this tacit agreement as people who are setting prices with literally zero legal recourse. There's nothing that's regulating the art world or the
Right,
art market.
right.
Literally nothing except your own sort of sense of obligation to your collectors and to your artists and the desire to, I guess, say like us, like want to be doing this for the rest of your lives and want to do something that is for an artist and for a collector, because collecting is a really beautiful thing. It's a passionate, wonderful thing, and there can be these like nice relationships, museums, all of this, like you're contributing to culture. But as a gallerist, you have an obligation to all of these different kinds of people to do something correct.
It wouldn't be in the benefit of the artist.
That
to
is,
just
it
have an
is like
auction.
you have like because we've seen you never ever want like a boom and a bust. And I say this to people all the time, like never in the entire history of art has a single artist ever had a trajectory that just goes up completely. Sure, the overall trend is up, but in that there are ups and downs. And if you believe only in the ups without thinking about the next down, the down is going to go straight down really, really quickly, and it's hard to recover from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Hey, will you take a couple of questions from the audience?
Oh, of course.
Before we do, join me once again in thanking
Yay.
Brigitte Mooney
they're
and
gonna send more
Wendy-
music.
oh, and Piedmont Blues. No one ever wants to ask the first question. Everyone wants to ask the third question. Go ahead.
Talking of Instagram, there are more and more artists that are selling their work directly to people online. And I think typically probably for hundreds or maybe thousands of dollars. I don't think in the tens or the 100,000s. But I wonder how you see, how that's kind of shaping in a way what good art is, like the fact that it doesn't have curation and that there is a kind of almost like a democratization.
I think if artists don't have a gallery and they can make a living selling their art online and don't have to work doing something they really have no passion about, that's fantastic. And I can't really, qualities and what's good, what's not good, what's quality. I mean, I think the artist is making money through Instagram, and maybe one day we'll have a gallery and we'll be able to get in more collections. That's great, but like we said before, you just never know in the future. Those could be women were working for years, centuries, in complete isolation, ignored, and now we're starting to go back into history and find those people. So there's no saying that that person is not making something good right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and if the artist could be in obscurity, selling work on Instagram, and I see those people too.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
mean, and that's also existed in the art world without Instagram. A young art student like meets one collector, and they're broke, and the collector's like, they believe in them. The artist doesn't have a gallery. They're like, all right, come in, like here, here's your rent. Like, I'll buy a drawing, and that, there's many different aspects of the art world too. I mean, there's galleries at different levels. There's collectors that buy from all sorts of different places, and
Yes.
it's this whole thing of like what an
Yeah, and then
arbiter
the
of
artist
taste
on
like,
Instagram creates a community. Like I always
Yeah.
tell artists, like when they come in, like how do I get into a gallery? I said, well, the first thing is to meet people, and if you're not able to meet people personally, COVID was one good reason why, but maybe socially you're not interested in going out to openings and doing that. Through Instagram, people have communities. So
Yep.
I think that's valid and it's good. And I don't think it's bad.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
This is actually a Brian Donnelly and an Instagram story simultaneously. But we honored him a few years ago at Tribeca Ball, and before the ball, he went to the studios and he found this one artist, Anna Park, whose work he just loved, and he posted it, and her career exploded.
Yeah.
So it was just his generosity, and he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that for anybody, but he was sharing his platform to advance somebody else's
And work he really liked. I
Yeah.
mean,
So all I'm missing is the closet.
connected the dots there.
Yeah, all the way in the back.
This is a question for Wendy. You mentioned that in the 90s you saw Oz's work and you thought, this isn't for my gallery. But I'm assuming it is now, and I'm wondering what changed.
I was seeing figurines. I wasn't seeing paintings. I was seeing, and it was it's just I couldn't understand it. And sometimes I went to Joan Semmel's studio a lot and said it wasn't for my gallery. I mean, Jaws was not the only mistake I've made. So trust me.
Yeah, no. I mean, we've all got those stories of shoulda, woulda, coulda, or whatever.
Yeah.
Hindsight.
Hi.
Hi.
Referring to the Instagram, do you advise artists how they should be using it, posting progress pictures, etc.? And also, when you were talking about collectors messaging and trying to have relationships with artists, I mean, I personally feel like I've got that, and they message me a lot, but I feel like I can't. It's hard for an artist to kind of. I didn't know that was a bad thing, basically. You're sort of saying.
Can you
Well, it
rephrase that?
depends.
Yeah.
It depends. Like, if you're an artist who has a gallery and there are collectors of that gallery, collectors kind of going around the gallery and being like, oh, I get this a lot, can you put in a good word for me with the gallery? And then collectors will come to me and be like, oh, well, I'm really good friends with this artist. And I'm like, and then the artist is like, no, they DM me a lot on Instagram. It's this weird, it's in the way of trying to work around something, or trying to buy work out of a studio knowing that the artist has a gallery, and if an artist does that, that's bad practice. That's really, that's not how that works. But when you're, it's the same, it's like if you don't have a gallery, yeah, of course you got to talk to the collectors if they want to buy it.
I mean, a lot of the
why
artists
not?
I show, not a lot, but quite a few, say for inquiries, contact PPOW. They just don't,
Yeah.
because they have no
Same.
way of knowing who these people are, and that's my job. It's not their job.
That's it. And it is, once you have a gallery, it's just go to the studio. Like, that's what you're supposed to do, really. And the only thing that I say to my artists sometimes where I'm like, especially if they're like, quote unquote, hot artists or whatever, or even artists where like there's a show coming up and I'm a little bit like, maybe don't post the pictures yet. Like, let's actually like, you know, do a kind of big reveal when it's up on the walls in the gallery and that kind of a thing. Like, you know, sometimes, but I don't like control any of my artists' Instagrams.
No,
or
I don't
anything
do
like
that at all.
No, not at all.
And sometimes I see things, so the artist posted, I'm like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. But I would never interfere.
No,
in a million
never.
years. It's their persona, it's their personality.
Yeah.
And I think Instagram is, like, it could be very idiosyncratic. Idiosyncratic?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so, and that makes it more interesting. And some, you know, as your personality comes out, you know.
Totally, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's fun. I mean, more interesting than, like,
Yeah,
predictable, boring things that you see so often.
totally.
Anyone else? Yes.
So the intensity and the influence of the art world, the market, can be such a double-edged sword for artists. And I'm wondering, what would you guys say is the healthier attitude or relationship for artists reacting to what's doing well in the market?
You mean if you're a student looking at what's doing well or what looks like success to you?
Students and also maybe emerging artists or artists who have not been represented or even artists who are represented, just seeing what other is out there and what the market is representing right now.
I mean, I always say to people, the most important thing is having a really strong studio practice and knowing who you are in the studio and what you're making and why. And the moment any success comes, you have to keep that going and not let all those outside forces in as much as possible. And on a certain level, it's utterly impossible. But that, like, because that's your relationship for the rest of your life, is with your studio. And all that other stuff, it comes and it goes. But if you go in and you make the work that you want to make, and you are an artist, like, that's the thing that is going to keep you through everything else. And don't believe what is posted on Instagram a lot of the time. And don't let a collector buy your entire studio. That's what I say to people too.
I'll get a little personal. I was thinking about this, reflecting, and I grew up in the suburbs, and my mother was always saying this person had that, and this person had that, and my father would be like, I don't care. I really just don't care. And I really took in my father's advice. So when I start myself, as an artist might look at, oh, that artist is doing that, and this artist is showing here, and I could look at another gallery and think, how do they get 10 artists in the Whitney Biennial? Keep your practice, which is my gallery, focused on what I do, and keep your community. Like, I feel good about who I show, and I believe in what I show, but when I try to be that other gallery, or you try to be that successful, it's like there's no way in the long term you will succeed.
Yeah.
So you just have to, like, I think as Brigitte said, like, know why you're doing what you're doing and have something to say. You know, I think everyone here can paint an apple. I've said this to the Academy students a million times. Everyone here got in because they can paint a perfect apple, but you got to do something more than that and have life experiences, and that might be failure. That might be, I don't know what. Everyone's personal, how they grew up or whatever influences them, but, you know, you have to have, you know, for many years, and I'm sure Peter heard this too, like, because we showed figurative art forever, people would say, oh, a figurative art's been done, it's been done a million times, how can you do anything with figurative art? We've seen it all since the Renaissance. Of course, that was an extremely patriarchal Western viewpoint that everyone believed, everybody. So there's so much good figurative art now because there's so many experiences being talked about. And like, what is yours?
Yeah.
But, you know, it's hard to stand out in this crowd and persist for years. And like, just bring up Joan Semmel again. She stuck to what she was doing, and she's amazing. And she's having such a beautiful success now, and she can really appreciate that success. And trust me, she's not thinking, what's Marilyn Winter making, or what's this one doing. It's like, she's just so grateful.
Yeah, it is. It's like, at the end of the day, it's you, it's your name, it's what you've done, and, you know, you just have to stick with that. It's like the end of the Crucible, and it's like, John Proctor's like, no, this is my name, like, this is it, this is all I actually have in the end. And so I'm not going to do something that isn't true to that.
perhaps our work here is done. Join me once again in thanking Wendy Olsoff and Brigitte Mulholland and Piedmont Blues.